Oh yeah, thank you guys for joining. I'm so happy and excited to present at the Warsaw Meetup. Uh, I usually come up with new stuff, and I'm always excited to present. I usually don't like presenting the same thing over and over, and like I have another meetup next week, and it's about something totally different. I'll tell you guys at the end of this. This one is going to be kind of exciting. You'll see how you learn something new, and it'll be fun for you guys. I mean, you already learned something new. Poland is called Polska in Polish. So, all right, go to the next slide. So, a little bit about me. Who am I? Why am I speaking to you guys? So, that's me on the top right over there in high school. So, I went to the University of Texas at Dallas to study engineering. And then after I graduated, I worked in a bunch of places. And then I did the Epic U boot camp, where for like 3 months they taught you HTML, CSS, JavaScript, C#. So based on a cool project I did there, I got an opportunity to work in the mobile team at Exego. and um, and then that's where I was introduced to Xamarin, and so I did a lot of Xamarin work there. And then I got picked up a few years later. I got picked up by a consulting company called Slalom, where I worked on a very popular app called My Spectrum. If you live in the United States, um, you probably, and you have Xamarin anywhere on your resume, even if it says, I don't know Xamarin, if you have it on your resume, they will make, like recruiters will call you for My Spectrum Xamarin positions. They're hiring a lot of developers all the time. And so I got to work on that for about a year and a half. I did some really cool work. While I worked there, the team grew from 8 to like 30 developers. And the, the app got onto like number 5 on the iOS App Store for tools. And there were about 1 million downloads at that time across iOS and Android. They did all kinds of stuff like accessibility, automated UI testing, and all this stuff using Xamarin. So like, Xamarin basically is solid, and it's very, very powerful. And then, I moved to Toronto about a year and a half ago, and no, 2 years now. All right. Yeah, and so, I continue just working on Xamarin apps. I do some freelance work as well, and I also volunteer on the side. Um, if you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me. And, I would love, if you guys want to know anything, just let me know. And if you want me to wait, just let me know that you
Yes.
want me to wait.
So one
So,
question.
yeah,
My Spectrum is Xamarin.Forms or native?
Xamarin Native.
All right.
Yeah. So I did Xamarin.Forms at Exego, and then I got picked up to do Xamarin Native in that place. Sorry, in My Spectrum. So it was a huge learning curve. It was very fun and exciting. But like that learning curve was off the roof. Like I thought I knew Xamarin, but then when you get into Xamarin Native, it's a whole other ballgame. I mean, I'm learning stuff all the time, even now, even though it's been so many years. So anyway, yeah. Any other question? Okay, no problem. So overview. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, we. I introduced myself a little bit. We're going to talk about what an analytics service is. Why are we even talking about GDPR compliance? And why it's not always good to use free services, especially in the technology world, and how to implement your own analytics service. And then we'll do a demo, and then we'll talk about some other use cases of what you're going to learn today. What you're going to learn is going to be really, really cool. When I figured this out, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And instantly I like wrote an article about another application of the same thing, and I've been using it quite a bit now. Anyway, without further ado, oh wait, one more thing. So since this is since Warsaw is in Poland, and this is the Warsaw um, Meetup group. Does anyone know what Warsaw is in Polish? It's obviously not Warsaw because that's an English word, just like Germany is not Germany in German, it's Deutschland. So what is Warsaw? Anyone? No one's curious enough to Google? I mean, these guys are so nice to organize this event for us. We should at least know how how the name of this city is called in their native language. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Warsaw. Warsaw.
Yeah, almost good.
Okay.
It's Warszawa.
Warszawa. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Cool.
great.
Warszawa, Polska. All right, cool. See, we already learned two new things today, guys. And I also want to give a brief disclaimer. I am not a lawyer or a data privacy expert of any kind. So what I'm providing you is not legal advice. Do your own research, hire a lawyer if you need to. But this is just what I learned that I'm sharing with you guys. So the what. Um, what is an analytics service? Like, what is it? You know, so an analytics service is used. It's for the discovery, interpretation, and communicating different patterns that the data that we can get from your app can provide. So initially, an app that's out there, it doesn't provide any data, but if you implement analytics, you can try to figure out meaningful patterns out of all the data that you get. And so, you know, that's what analytics is supposed to do. And they're essentially at the very basic level, you need to have the ability to trigger an event and then count how many times that event was triggered. Okay, so let's say you have an app, you want to see how many times that app was opened. And so the app open is an event, and the counter is how many times it was open. So like 200 times it was open, you know? So that's at the very basic level of what an analytics service provides. So then what it does is, what it helps us with is, it helps us with quantifying the effects of making a change to your app. So for example, if you say, hey, I want to add this new feature, but if no one really uses it, what's the point of putting all that effort in, you know? So especially if your app is already really popular, but you're putting a feature in a page that no one even goes to, what's the point at all? And so analytics really helps you drill that down. For example, in an app that I'm working on, um, there was a feature for international claims. Like it's basically a claims app that I'm working on, and for people who are traveling internationally. And that was a really huge effort. Like it would take a couple of weeks. And so, and I was tasked to do it. And then I was like, hey, this seems like the most niche feature and no one seems to be using this feature. Like, do we really need this? And so we did a lot of research and we found out that out of like, I think 20,000 users, 25,000 users, 25 users would use that. And so it was like, okay, are we really going to spend 3 weeks for 25 users? And the answer was no. And so, we were able to make a decision based on data thanks to our analytics. So, it can be very useful. The other importance is, that the app is alive. So the app that I'm working on, initially, they didn't have any analytics on page views or anything like that. So when I got onto the project, this app hadn't been touched for a year and a half. Like it was on the App Store, but no one knew if the app was even working. They were like, the analytics, the reviews said, oh, this app doesn't work, this app doesn't work. And so they thought the app doesn't work for anyone. They were like, oh, this is such a waste. Maybe we should start from scratch and all that stuff. So when I went in, I added in analytics, and then they were able to see that no, in fact, like there's thousands of users of the app. They just didn't know how many there were. Okay, and on mobile, usually how you add an analytics service is that you add a library, which in the C# world is called a nuget package. And so you'd add a nuget package, and that way you'd be able to implement all the features of this analytics service. And so that company, the analytics service provider, is basically providing you this NuGet package, that they create. Okay, so we'll talk about why that is an essential point. So why GDPR compliance? So GDPR compliance is important across the world, not just in Europe, even though it's a European policy. But if I have a user who's European on my app, I am automatically liable for the GDPR. If I don't want my app to be used by a European user, I just, go into the App Store and ban it from there. Say that, oh, it's not being used in these places. And even then, like, it's difficult to, pinpoint that, okay, this guy, he didn't like go around it somehow to still be able to use it. And so what it stands for is the General Data Protection Regulations. It was introduced to replace a 1998 law. In 20 years, a lot changed, especially in terms of the technology world and how companies are making money. And so let me see. Does anyone are you guys familiar with GDPR and their principles? Can anyone is anyone not aware of it at all? Can I get like 1 if you have no clue, and 4 if you are an expert at GDPR? Just like throw it in the chat so I can see some of those responses. Let's see. Chat. So anyone? Are you guys, so 1 if you have no clue about GDPR, and 4 if you like are pretty good at GDPR. Okay, good. Yeah. So we have like people from across the board. So I'm not going to go into too much details, just superficially, just because we're short in time. But since it's a regulation, it's a general data protection regulation. So it contains articles and recitals. So both of those are important. And it's quite complicated. Like there's in terms of the law, and it's for good purpose, because they want to protect the users. Users may not be experts at technology, so they don't know what's going on. They don't know that there's companies out there that's scavenging your data. Like, why is Facebook free? They don't know why Facebook is free, that Facebook is basically tracking everything that they're doing. And so there is for the GDPR, every country or every region, they have a supervisory authority that enforces GDPR. So, for example, if a company is not implementing GDPR properly in their product, the supervisory authority is who you go to and inform them, and then they enforce it. Like they will fine the company or whatever, however they enforce the laws. This is not really GDPR enforcement. It is, we're just talking about what it is. And they're trying to protect sensitive information that they believe is sensitive. Obviously, you think that name is sensitive, age is sensitive, but not really, And so when you take information from people, try not to take as much information as you can. Like, try to take the minimal possible information as possible. So stuff like race, political opinion, religion, memberships, biometric data, health, gender. So if you store this information, you have to really drill down into how you're storing it, how you're allowing people to access it, and because you're liable from that point. And so you have to be extremely, extremely careful with everything that they consider as sensitive information. Okay. This is a quick chart that was made by Deloitte, and I have the source in the footnotes. and I can provide you guys the URL for this as well. But let's say you're let's say you're a $1 billion company. Okay, you're Facebook. If you don't implement GDPR properly, you could pay $4 million in fine. You know, and so it's huge. 4% is massive if their global turnover is so. And so there's obviously different parts to it. One of them is the right to be forgotten. So if you're storing information, remember that you have to allow the ability to be forgotten, essentially delete all their personal information. Okay, and you have to inform people in 72 hours and stuff like that. Like it's quite extensive. What we care about is just the analytics part of it. Why are analytics or do we even care about this stuff when we're just talking about analytics services? So analytics services, they're providing you a service. They provide you a NuGet package. A developer or several developers work on that NuGet package. And why would anything in this world be free? Nothing in this world is free. So why will that NuGet package be free? Just like App Center, yeah, they're providing you the free NuGet packages for App Center, but like Google, for example, they have an ulterior motive as to why they're providing you free services, because they consume your data, and your data is money. Like they're not paying you for the data that you provide, because they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to tell them that we're using their data for all these purposes. But they get smarter, especially Facebook. If you implemented the Facebook SDK, like, oh yeah, it's free, but they use all this information that they track from your app. They're like, okay, what kind of app is this? Okay, so this person is interested in this kind of stuff. Let me show him ads like this. And so let me tell companies that this person in this region is your possible market. Pay us money and we'll show him ads related to it. So it's pretty scheming. It's pretty bad. Not good. So be very careful of what services you're using. And also another reason not to use free analytics services is that it's not very flexible, and so you have to work within their constraints. And there are a lot of paid, so there's obviously the free analytics services out there, like App Center, Firebase Analytics. They're pretty popular, but there are also some paid ones out there. And the paid ones obviously don't get a lot of popularity just because they're paid versus the free ones. So now we're like, okay, paid is bad. Sorry, paid is, you have to ask for a credit card, just like we talked about. And so just like Constanti talked about, you don't really want to provide your boss's credit card number. So, and then, free, you have to be extremely careful. So what options do we really have? We can, possibly implement our own analytics service, but in order to implement your own analytics service, you need a database to store that analytics and a web service that you're able to communicate securely with that database. So, the database should follow a lot of, guidelines, like it should be readily available 100% of the time. You should be easy to edit, and the web service should also be, fairly simple and easy to access. But like me, I'm a mobile developer. I am not a backend developer, neither am I a database admin, and I don't even know all the stuff that would go into creating my own analytics service. However, I do know Excel, Microsoft Excel, and which is very similar to Google Sheets, and I'm sure all of you know Google Sheets as well. So what if we could store our analytics data inside Google Sheets and make sure that that analytics data is only accessible to people who I want it to be accessible to. So I don't want everyone to see my analytics data, just me. And however, I want the service, it has to be a RESTful API service that takes those events, those analytics events, and it should be accessible to everyone. So like there's so many different things. And then I should be able to edit that web service in a simple way. You know, it's like so complicated to think about, but you're like, what if there was an easy way? So let's try this. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna open. Okay, so here we go. I'm just gonna demo. Let's start with our app, okay? The premise is that we have this mobile app. We created a new solution. So we just go to File. I'll go through it with you guys. Are you guys able to see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so I just go to File, New Solution, blank Forms app. Just created that and just put a name, iOS and Android. Super basics, okay? Everyone follow? Super simple start. No magic over here whatsoever. And when I build the app, you have your app.xaml.cs, you have your main page. Let me see. And let me just build it from scratch. Like there's no changes. There's no changes made to the main page, to the app XAML. Everything's the same. Okay, and I'm just going to build it, and I'll show it to you guys. I don't know why I'm doing it with Android. Let me do it with iOS simulator. Why do you take so long? Okay, doesn't take that long. So I'm opening my visor so I can show you guys my screen. Yeah, so if you start a new blank Forms app from scratch, this is what you see. I have not made any changes to it whatsoever, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I'm going to add 2 buttons to this. Okay, so let me bring this side to side so you guys are able to see it. And just simple, okay, so I have the code on me as well, but I'm just going to do it with you guys just to see, practice my live coding skills. Okay, so this is the clicked function. As soon as you click a button, it shows up something. And I'm going to add a button that says send message. So let's say, we are sending a message. And so on the button click, we want one analytics event to show that there is a button click, like a select action. Some action has been done. So there's essentially 2 main actions that I generally work with. There's a select action. So if someone presses something, they've selected something, and the other is a page view. So if you view the main page, it records it. It tells you, okay, this page has been viewed 100 times, and this is the button, this is the option that he selected, stuff like that. So I am adding a send message button, and then I'll add another button that says, let's see, open LinkedIn. Yeah, let's say open LinkedIn. So we'll try to open the LinkedIn app or the browser, and we'll just record that event as well. So are we doing good on time? I think so. Yeah, and let me just close this. So now we have 2 buttons, send message and open LinkedIn. They don't really do anything, but at least we have them over here, okay? So what are we going to do with this now? As soon as you send a message, let's say we display an alert. So display alert that says message sent. So message, oh. and okay. And then over here, we'll just do a, open the device. So device.open URI, okay, and go to something like linkedin.com. So new URI and HTTPS. Hey. LinkedIn.com/in/Saamer. Okay. And so now, wait, let's make sure that it's hooked up to the right button. So the send message button has the button clicked. Yes. And the open LinkedIn has the device is button clicked one. Perfect. So now if I stop it and I start it, it'll essentially show me display the stuff. Now what I need to do is I need to create my analytics service that I basically add over here that says, okay, hey, button was clicked, and it should store it in that analytics service. For that, as I mentioned, we're going to use Google Drive, Google Sheets specifically. So I'm just going to create a new Google Sheet. Okay, starting from scratch. So say Warsaw Polskie spreadsheet. Okay, Warsaw. How do you spell Warsaw?
Yeah, it's Warszawa.
Warsaw. Is that the right spelling? Polski.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, Warsaw Polskie Analytics Service. We need to start charging people for using our analytics service. Okay, so last event time, basically the last time that that event was triggered, the event name and the total count. Okay, so what kind of events should we record? Let's say something like a page view of the home page. So when the home page, like how many views we have for the home page, let's do a select action for the send message button. And then we'll do a select action for the LinkedIn button. Okay, open LinkedIn. All right, so we have our database essentially. Now we're going to go ahead and create our web service. Woohoo! So just click on tools, say script editor, and I'm going to get the code from here. This is the magic part that I will share with you guys. So I'm creating a GitHub repository, and so I can share the GitHub repository with you guys as well. But essentially, I'm just going to copy and paste that over here, and it's just going to say Polski web service. What it does now, briefly, what we're going to do is, so this is the post command. So when you this web service is connected to the Google Sheet, which is the database. And so if you create a do post function, it essentially enables a post function. So per post REST call, and you pass in the request to that post call, and it comes over here essentially. Okay. So then we're going to take that request, we're going to parse it into JSON because it's just string. We're going to turn it into a JSON. We're going to pass it into this function, and it's going to, this is just, I guess, plain JavaScript. It's just going to, open the spreadsheet, which is this. So I'm going to copy the, I'm going to copy this is called a sheet URL. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in to my script editor. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I don't know if my internet speed is great and so you guys are able to see everything. But essentially what I did is I just went to my Google Sheet, and in the suffix, I took this URL or this code, which is basically the spreadsheet ID, and I just pasted it in over here. So it opens that spreadsheet, and this is just the result message that displays if it's a success or a failure. What I do is I take today's date. This is what I use for the last event date, and I parse the data from the request, and I check to see if it is, what is inside that data. And then, depending on what's inside the data, I change that row and that column of the spreadsheet. I just take the older value, add it to this newer value by 1. Okay? And there's a catch. Obviously, there's a try catch, and then there's a return. Okay, and I also, just because I like unit tests, no, I don't, but but in order to be able to test it, I have a test over here that I'm going to use. First, let me save it, and let me publish, deploy as a web app, okay? And I'm just gonna give it a project version, new service, and I want anyone to be able to see it, okay? So anyone, even anonymous, should be able to open the app and not this file, but they should be able to run, trigger the event on their app. So I'm going to choose this, give it permission so that anyone can use it. This over here is my script URL. This is the RESTful API call URL. So I'm just going to put this on the side over here. And this is what I'm going to put into my app as well. Now, so what it's going to do is, okay, yeah. So going back to unit tests. So let me test this functionality. So this is the test function, and I'm passing in the event, the select action send message event. So what it should do is it should add a count over here, okay? To test whether this works or not, it should add a count over there, and it should give me the time. And this is what it does, and it passes it into this function, okay? So just a basic unit test. I'm gonna hit play, and let's see, hopefully it works. And it worked, woohoo! Did you guys see that? There's one count, and this is the time. So now let's say I run this test 2 more times. So ran it once and ran it another time. What should the count be? It should be 3. Good. So essentially our web service works and it is live. There's a post command that we can do. Now going back to our Visual Studio Code. So our web service and database is good to go. Analytics service is done. Now we want to use that analytics service in our mobile app. Okay, how do we do that? Obviously, we need all of the code, and I have some of it built, so I'm just going to bring it in here. Okay. So this over here is the data call. I'm going to, because we just created a new analytics service, so it has a different URL. So I'm going to bring this URL up, and I'm going to put this in the code over here. So now it has the right URI. So this is what the data call is made. Now I need to pass in the event name. So what are the different event names? Let me, since it's an async call, let me say async void. Let me await this call. And the first one is open LinkedIn. So select action LinkedIn. Put this in over here. And bam. So what did I do over here? As soon as you click on the open LinkedIn button, it makes a data call with sending in this string. Okay, just passes in that string, and it goes over here. There's a request model that basically just has a string. called event. Just public string event get set. Very simple. Okay, so it just has that. You pass in that select action into that model. You take this URI that you got from your web service. You serialize this model, and then you just put it in as string content, make a post call, and this should be it. That's it. This is not needed. This is just for debugging purposes. Okay, so in just a few lines of code, you're all ready to go. Now let's test it. Okay, and while it's building, what we can do in the meantime is similarly, when you click on the send message button, all it needs to do is say select action, send message. So just bring that. Yeah, and that's it. You have another action that's tracked. And then what you can also do is whenever the page is viewed, the on appearing function is called. So, async. Let's just call okay. So the app right now has only the select action for LinkedIn. After that, I had already clicked on build. So let's see if it actually is hooked up correctly. I'm going to show you guys. This is our database. This is the app. Okay, I'm going to click on open LinkedIn on the app. Do you guys see it? Do you guys see how this populated into one automatically? Yep. So we have open LinkedIn, and now we just have to hook up the other data calls as well. So select action, send message, hook that up, and so this one's not supposed to be a select action. This is a page view. So we want to calculate how many page views there are. Go over here, get that event, put it in here. So every time the page appears, it will call this function, and it will, trigger the event for a page view. Every time you press send message, it will trigger that event for send message. Let me just show you guys it working on iOS. And that's it. I mean, this is basically it. Like, it's far simpler than you'd imagine. And now that you guys know this, you guys can implement this in so many different other ways. You don't only need to implement it in this specific way that I've implemented it. You can calculate stuff like, how many times on Wednesdays was this used? What time, how many times was it used between 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.? All that stuff you can record. And it's super simple. Like, just look how many lines of code we had to put in. It was like that easy. We didn't need to go through Azure, AWS, Google, Firebase, blah, blah, blah. IIS, we didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. So as you saw, the page loaded, and so this page view event was called. Let's try it again. So I'm going to open the page, and page view. I guess I have to shut the app down. Let me shut the app. So I'm going to open the page, and over here you'll see this change to 2 in a few seconds. A few seconds later. Yeah, there we go. So open the page. There we go. Change to 2. I send a message. It says message sent and change to 4. I open LinkedIn again. It's 1 right now. It will change to 2. There we go. See? You guys are all ready to go. Now, what other uses are there for this awesomeness? Like, what else can you use this amazing 5-minute? It didn't even take 5 minutes. It probably took 2 minutes for us to implement this. but I just said 5 minutes just so it was more believable. But what else can you use this model for? This like super simple database and web service model for? Hey, what's wrong with this? Come on, I want to see my presentation.
Yeah, I think we lost your screen.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what else can you use this for? Well, a lot of us has, always wanted to have a feedback screen in our app where like, okay, I want to know if people like it or not. And so if people like it, I want them to go to the app store and rate it. But what if they don't like it? I still want to know why they didn't like it, and I don't want them to put that negative review in the app stores. So what you could do is you could implement something similar to this, where you implement a simple, form, and it stores it into your Google Sheet. you know every time there's a negative, the user is going to rate the app negatively, so you ask them, hey, did you enjoy your experience? And they're like, no. you, you take them to this feedback page. You get the feedback over there. If they say yes, take them to the app store, let them rate your app, you get 5 stars. If they don't, they can send that review to your Google Sheets. And especially if you're an indie developer, this is great. You don't have to set up all this infrastructure for nothing. And then you can also use this as a content management system. So we did a post call. Similarly, you can also do a get call where you can see what to what data to display. So instead of using like static, I don't know, like some people just store like a JSON object. You don't have to do that. You can just create a Google Sheet and convert that data into JSON. So you can just consume that using a very, very similar pattern. You just do a do get. And if you're interested, let me know. I can show you guys how to do that as well. And that's about it. Wait, hold on. One more trivia question. So let's see. Yeah, yeah, that's about it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you guys can ask me right now. I know a few of you might leave, so you can also feel free to reach out to me on my email or on Twitter. I blog a bit. You guys might have seen my blogs, but I just don't blog under my name. And also I have a YouTube channel where I have a few videos. My next talk also is in October for the Rochester Xamarin Meetup, where I talk about how I brought native in-app reviews to Android. So yeah, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Saamer. It was very interesting usage of Google spreadsheets.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Yes, please.
So the first one is pricing. Do they bill you for some volume of the requests?
No, it's entirely free actually. Google, the what is it called? App editor? What is it? Uh, so the tools script editor for Google, it was actually called something else before. They recently renamed it from um, Google Apps Trigger or something like that. And they sunsetted that. They deprecated the whole system and they changed it to Google Apps Editor. What is this? App Script. Sorry. Yeah. And so a lot of people, you'll be surprised, actually use this for creating Twitter bots. So it's completely free, and it's very useful in so many different ways. And yeah, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Yeah, what was your other question, Konstantin? And it's so instantaneous. It's amazing. Like you saw how quick it was in Swift. Yeah, Konstantin, what's your second question?
sorry, microphone muted.
Oh, that's fine.
What types of triggers do you have for the data? Can you, for the scripts, do they only work on the HTTP, or you can have some triggers on new row added to the spreadsheet or something like that to push some data out of this?
Yeah, I mean, so I did a post call over here, and so you can do a get call as well. And so when you say do get, you can get all the data from the spreadsheet, just like I mentioned. You can use it as a CMS. Yeah.
Yes, but this is the triggers for this code are on the REST API. But can you have another trigger, like have a function which will be called when a new row is inserted to the spreadsheet?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So call a function when something happens. Actually, that's a great question. That brings me to this amazing topic. I should have added into the presentation. So you have this thing called if this then that. Hey, what? So if this then that enables you to trigger basically if a value changes in a certain column and row, it can make a phone call. It can tweet about it. It can send a message, whatever. So explore, and I have some set up. You can like change the lights in your house if something changes, thanks to this powerful tool that they have. So Google Sheets. This is probably the coolest part that I totally messed up, forgot to add. Yeah. So if something changes in your Google Sheets and you can choose which so if it is greater than 0, then add a row. So like there's so many things you can do, and then if something changes, then change the air conditioning temperature in my house. Like there's so many different possible things that you can do. Send a message on Twitch or Discord or Slack. Like all of these are all set up and ready to go. Yeah.
Okay, but you have to use the third-party tool for that.
There's probably a way that you don't have to use a third-party tool, but third-party tools are already out there, and it already connects to so many different things by itself.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, anything is possible with Google Sheets because you have access to the internet, so you can do an HTTP call and like change the lights of your Hue bulbs and things like that.
Okay, and the last question would be about the data privacy on your sheets hosted by Google for free.
Yes. So yeah.
So you said that a big reason to go for your custom custom analytics service would be to avoid the third-party processing of this gathered information. However,
Yes.
I think Google does some analyzing on the sheets.
So the thing is with app data, they know that it's app analytics data. So for them that is useful, but this is just a Google Sheets in their mind. They don't know we're using it as an app analytics. They don't know that these are page view events of an app. They don't know which app it is.
Okay,
And
that makes sense.
Even more importantly, like they don't know the IP address of the user. So it's totally useless to them. Because
Great points.
Yeah, if you had the IP address, you would know exactly which country this page view was from. So there's like a lot of benefits of doing something like this. Christian just said, can you put links to your blog and YouTube? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah, any other questions? Anyone have any other questions? Let me just look at that. Okay, this is my blog link. So 3CNRYVG, and this is the link to my YouTube channel. Yeah, but if you follow me on Twitter, you'll have some really cool stuff actually coming up that I am going to be sharing. Yeah. And please stay tuned for this one. This is going to be a very exciting talk in October. Damien, I don't have any other questions. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Samir, one more time for a very interesting presentation. It was, a very clever idea to use Google spreadsheets.
Yeah.